Even if it is not a controlled environment, if the difference is at such a large rate, if it cannot be explained with any other factor, you can draw conclusions.
Well, it can be explained with any other factor, but it also
give me them
that
right now.
Factor.
Give me those factors.
If you say it's environment, you also have to provide the research into that, proving how much environment it is.
Have you provided that research?
I would literally be applying the same standard to everyone else. If the conversation would be with people who claim that the differences are 100% environment.
So your position is that you're so autistic that you're not making any conclusions at this point until you have that even though deductive...
No, my position is you can't make any conclusions until you provide that evidence.
Can you make any conclusions? So you're not drawing any... So, okay, you're a Lydia at this point, le centrist skeptic meme. You're so much intelligent because you don't... That is exactly. You're so intelligent and enlightened that you're not drawing any conclusion.
No,
that's not a fucking argument. Listen, at this point,
it is an argument. It is. I don't have enough evidence to make a conclusion.
Sure, but you don't have enough evidence. Now I'm going to say.
So your evidence is different than mine. It's better.
Well, I mean, my
what am I missing?
You know, a chromosome. Kraut. That's what you're missing. A chromosome. Listen. You can make conclusions based off of deductive reasoning. At this point in the scientific debate, not only is the racial factor the best factor that we have with the most amount of data, all of the other factors have been ruled out independently. Can
you give me a moment? Someone's knocking on my door. I'll be right back.
Is it the autistic lady from next door?
I think it's the retard, yeah.
For fuck's sake.
Can I have some onions?
Okay. It was there. Yeah. So, all right. Anyway,
your argument has boiled down to I don't like the scientific method.
No, my argument has boiled down to your entire philosophical position is just you being an retard. So, okay, here's bar none. Okay, science doesn't. Depending on your philosophical belief. Okay. Your interpretation of data set, your epistemology that you choose to apply to the data set, all right, is what you're doing. All of that is just a construction that you're applying to the data set. You can't... Science doesn't necessarily prove anything.
No,
you can only make approximations.
What you're not getting is the scientific method literally says there is no 100% truths.
Exactly.
No, this is where you're failing. You conduct experiments in a controlled environment, you draw conclusions out of them, but you do this so by listing your methodology so it is repeatable and falsifiable, meaning everyone can conduct the experiment again and come to different conclusions
now,
if different
here's the thing.
Results can
listen.
Do that in social sciences.
Yes,
you don't have a controlled
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
And you're not doing an experiment.
Oh my God!
Interpretations.
For fuck's sake. Okay, here's the three different points that are controlled that we have. Okay, IQ is real. IQ is genetic.
IQ is real.
I've already explained to you. I'm not going to explain to you again. Stop poisoning the well. IQ is real. IQ is genetic. There are only a certain amount of things that we have proven that could cause the differences between the IQs of the races. And at this point, we have ruled out all the other options, and the only option left is the racial option.
Okay, I'm gonna draw up my 3 points then. IQ is a social variable. To prove that it is in any way tied to genes and therefore heritable, you will have to provide the molecular...
No, you would not. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't.
And to provide evidence that and if you claim that it varies along racial lines and that race is a factor in this, you especially have to provide the molecular genetic evidence.
No, you don't. No, you don't, Rob.
Because you stray into biology as a sociologist, and as such, you are where you do not belong, and you fall under a different standard for evidence.
And see, this is the problem, Kraut. You aren't actually making a separate argument to what causes these specific genes. You don't. I mean, first of all,
Because
you
I
aren't
do
making.
not have
You aren't
to.
making. You aren't making. Yes,
Because
you do.
I do not have to. It
Your
is not.
posi-
No. I do not have to
Kraut,
provide.
shut the fuck up and let me
within the
stop interrupting me.
scientific methods.
Listen, yes, you do. The reason is there are only a certain amount of things that can cause this emergent phenomenon. If it is not race, it has to be something else. What is your proposition?
I do not have to provide an alternative.
Yes, you do.
No, I do not.
Kraut.
I do not.
If it is not race, it is something else.
No,
What is
no,
your proposition?
Scientific method does not prove something else. All I need to do is look at the methodology used and then say, okay, this is not enough.
Kraut. You can use deductive reasoning, okay? You've admitted that. We can use deductive reasoning. At this point,
No, I have not admitted that you can use deductive reasoning to come to
well, you
scientific
can.
conclusions in biology.
You can, and they have with
can't.
dyslexia. I've given you that example a number of times. Yes, you can. You can use deductive reasonings, because if there's only 5 possibilities of what could cause some emergent phenomena, and you remove 4, there's only 1 left. At this point, we have removed all of the other possibilities. Sure, we don't have that particular standard of evidence yet. However, we have good evidence to suggest that it is true. So not only is the racial component the only one we have left, it is the one we have the best evidence at this point.
No, there is no evidence.
And also,
for it,
Kraut,
and it's not the only one left.
There is okay, which one is left?
The environment is left. It's a nurture versus nature debate.
Okay, what environmental factors?
I have these social studies.
Give me one.
Therefore, I make the
Kraut,
biological.
give me one.
Everything from malnutrition to who knows what.
Give me one.
Environment is a big. Okay, let me think. Malnutrition.
Malnutrition can't
disease,
be it, and this is why. Malnutrition can't be it, and this is why. In order to prove that malnutrition, in fact, in general, by the way, in order to prove that the causal level, that the causation, that the thing that is causing the differences between the races is malnutrition or any other socioeconomic factor, you would have to prove that the nutrition and the socioeconomic factors are standards of deviation apart racially. That is not true.
Yeah. You have to prove that. Correct.
You would have to prove that. Yes, you would have to prove that. But
more importantly, you'll have to prove also that malnutrition correlates with intelligence. And then, because I will have to apply the same standard to that kind of research, you will have to prove in a laboratory that malnutrition causes an impact on the brain, which results in less cognitive ability.
Yes, you would. And
That's the thing, and I'll have to do that. But here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
You are saying
listen,
I have to do that, but not that you have to do it.
Well, I actually have. There are a number of researchers who have done that. And specifically, like I said...
Who have done the molecular genetic analysis, right?
No, who have done the research to prove that it is not socioeconomic. We've removed that because the research has been done to remove that as a possibility. And here's how we know. The differences between the race, specifically in America, by the way, because the best research on this is the bell curve. It really is. The differences between the races, socioeconomically, environmentally, and nutritionally, are not standards of deviation apart. In fact, if Black Americans were their own nation, they would be the 16th nation, wealthiest nation in the world. That is not standards of deviation apart.
I'm back with you. What I wanted to say is the bell curve is not the best evidence because it doesn't even have the human genome. It doesn't have anything.
No, stop. Oh, for fuck's sake, Kraut, shut up. I'm not saying, at this point, you have misinterpreted me, poisoned the well, used fucking dictionary definitions to not allow me to make reasonable conclusions.
It's not the dictionary.
You are poisoning the well.
No, it's literally how it's applied in the lab.
Let me explain to you, okay? The bell curve goes explicitly through all of these options. And Charles Murray has done the research, which proves that it is not socioeconomic factors. Yes, he did not. He does not have anything genetic.
He does not provide evidence.
He provides evidence that it is...
He's doing social interpretation.
Kraut, for fuck's sake, Kraut, shut up! I'm not saying you have misinterpreted me 3 fucking times in a row. This is what I'm saying. The bell curve proved, with sociological evidence, sure. However, he wasn't trying to make...
It's not evidence if it's sociological.
Kraut, fuck off. Kraut. What he said, he did not make claims about biology. He made claims about these other influences. Now, sure, you cannot make specific claims to genetic truth. However, you can deduce with other factors. Deductive logic, remove these other factors from the equation. He did that implicitly. What he did is he went over the studies that we have and proved it is not socioeconomic factors.
How did you come to that conclusion without having any biological evidence?
I just explained it to you, Kraut.
By going through other social studies. So it's just saying, oh, these other social studies eliminate the scientific method. How does that work?
Kraut.
Does not provide evidence.
Kraut, you are poisoning the well.
No. It's literally
you are poisoning the well.
Claims about biology.
Kraut, stop poisoning the well. I'm just going to yell at you if you don't stop poisoning the well. I've never.
It's providing. It's providing.
Oh, for
candidates
fuck's
and
sake!
suggestions.
Let me talk. Stop
Okay,
poisoning the well. Okay. He did not prove it in the positive. He disproved the other propositions.
How did he disprove it?
Like I said before.
Kraut,
shut up! Don't fucking interrupt me! For fuck's sake, I'm going to remove your ability to talk if you do that again. All right, thank you. Are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Thank you, Kraut. I appreciate it. Now, what he did, there is an if-then statement, all right? Basic logic, basic science, a hypothesis. If the differences of intelligence between the races are caused by socioeconomic factors, then the difference in socioeconomic factors will be the same as the difference between the IQ. It's right about a standard of deviation. Now, the difference between the socioeconomic factors between blacks and whites and how they're treated in society is not a standard of deviation. Therefore, they cannot completely explain the differences between black and white IQ.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said to specifically rule out that option.
So he's saying these social studies within the standard of social studies, which is suggestions, we cannot provide evidence for.
You're still just poisoning the well.
I am not.
Yes, you are.
It is the standards that
you're begging the question. No, Kraut, you're begging the question.
It is a biological claim.
No, it is not, Kraut. You're begging the question.
It is.
You're poisoning the well.
Oh, this is biological.
You are begging the question. You are poisoning the well. Now listen, Kraut.
I am demanding the evidence.
Yeah, you're poisoning the well.
No, I'm demanding the evidence.
Listen, I have given you the evidence. It was a hypothesis. Kraut,
it's a hypothesis.
You're poisoning
exactly.
the well. And
no, it is a hypothesis, and for the hypothesis to become a theory, it must be tested.
Okay. And was this not tested?
To be tested as a biological claim.
No, Kraut, stop. Kraut. This was not a biological claim.
It is. If you say it's heritable and genetic, it is biology.
First of all, you can test heritability in other ways.
Which is other ways? Do you mean quantitative genetics?
I don't necessarily mean quantitative genetics. I mean heritability stuff.
Yeah, Mendelian laws. It's funny because that's the same thing that alternative hypothesis brought up. And he quoted a book and deliberately removed the quote that it proves.
Poisoning the well.
No, I'm not poisoning
the well.
It literally says in that book, it is literally the standard within quantitative genetics, that it merely provides suggestion genes. And for evidence to be there, it requires molecular genetic analysis.
Kraut, you're poisoning the well again.
I am not poisoning the well.
Listen, let me explain to you. Let me say it. The Mendelian laws, these other options, are used in many other fields of study. Many other scientific fields of study.
I can read it to you myself. If you want.
Okay, sure. And you know what? You're fine when you read that because I read that too. In fact, you read it to me up in privately. Yes, the Mendelian studies do provide evidence. Yes, the genetic knockout genes is better evidence. However, the lack of better evidence does not disprove the current evidence. We have evidence to suggest that it is true. All you're doing is autistically demanding more and more evidence.
No. Here's what it says. When heredity is important, and it almost always is for complex traits like behavior, it is now possible to identify specific genes by using methods of molecular genetics, the topic of chapter 9. Now, here's what it says. Complex behavior, okay? It almost always is for complex traits such as behavior. Do you know what this means? Do you know why you can't apply the Mendelian standards when you are researching heredity of behavioral traits? Because behavioral traits differ from other traits. This is the delusional thing that these alt-writers draw up. If you really think that you can observe intelligence as a trait on the same standard as you can observe, for example, the trait of milk output of a cow's, that's simply not true.
Yes, you can, Kraut.
Because you can't, because there's a difference.
Yes, you can. IQ.
Intelligence is not as clearly observable
as
the milk output of a cow.
Yes, it is.
No,
it is
it's
testable.
not. Because of the variations, and because we know that intelligence is influenced by social factors. IQ is not a biological standard.
Sure, it is not a biological. Yeah, but here's the thing, Kraut.
No, it literally says so. Mendelian laws do not apply. You require further additional research to back it up due to the influences of social factors.
But here's the problem, Kraut. We have already removed those social factor possibilities.
How? With other social studies?
Sure, with other poisoning the well studies. Again, yeah, that's all you're doing.
Not biology.
Sure, fine, they're not biology, how it is.
I require the evidence. I require the molecular biological analysis. And it's not just me. It's literally the people I've been talking to. It's the scientific standard.
Sure, fine.
A biological question, you have to provide.
Here are the claims that I am making. Okay, first of all, IQ is real. Second of all, for fuck's sake. Second of all, that IQ is genetic. Third of all, that we have that in the amount of things that could cause the differences in IQs between the races, we have disproved all of the specific socioeconomic factors. The only one we have, the best one we have, and the only one we have left at this point is genetic.
And you deducted this by removing the other standards with social studies.
Well,
that is not acceptable. That is not an acceptable standard of evidence.
Yes, it is.
It isn't when you're making a biological claim.
All I'm saying at this point, you're saying it isn't, I'm saying it is.
Okay. All I'm going to say now is we should probably stop this before we strangle each other.
I mean, here's the problem.
We've been doing this for 2 hours now.
We have. Now, listen, the thing is, Kraut, we can, but the thing is, Kraut, it's not even that your argument is wrong, that it's bad and it is poisoning the well. It really is.
I disagree.
Because, I mean, from the very outset, all you've done is poison the well. As an example, I gave you a link to the National Institute for Health, a government website, .org. Excuse me, .gov.
Oh, blog
and
post,
again,
yeah.
You said it was a blog post. Again, that right there is poisoning the well.
It's not poisoning the well. It's
yes,
a standard.
It is,
it's not a scientific paper.
That is
and
poisoning the well.
It says within it.
Calling
I can read it to you again.
No, Kraut.
It says suggestions for 50%. And even better, the difference in intelligence amongst individuals, not between groups.
Kraut. Again, right now, you are doing nothing but poisoning the well. Arguing in bad faith. That's all you're doing.
The scientific standard is not poisoning the well.
Your scientific standard is poisoning the well. Now,
it's
again,
not mine. It's literally not mine.
Kraut,
it is generally D.
Kraut, listen. What exactly happened, and this is another evidence of poisoning the well. I pull up a study. I pull up a page, okay, from the National Library of Medicine, which is a .gov website. You call it a blog post. Again,
Yes.
you can scroll down to the specific
And yeah, you can scroll down and open the other studies. And we did that, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
That.
Now, the conclusions the conclusions that have been made from these specific studies, as written on the National Library of Medicine, is that the studies suggest that genetic factors underlie 50%. You are poisoning the well.
We're literally repeating what we talked about an hour ago.
And I'm explaining to you why you are poisoning the well.
It's opinion surveys. Opinion surveys are not qualifications.
Kraut, you are poisoning the well. For fuck's sake, Kraut.
No. Your opinion is not suffice to make a conclusion in
Now I'm going to remove your ability to talk.
Okay.
If you do not let final warning. I'm serious about this. Like I said, you are poisoning the well, and this is the thing. Like I said, this is not a blog post. That right there is an ad hominem. That's you poisoning the well. This is the page on the National Library of Medicine. And it suggests that genetic factors underlie 50%. And this is my point. You can't even let this point go. Because you are so deluded and fucking arrogant that you think that a page on the National Library of Medicine is a blog post.
It is.
Now that isn't an argument, Kraut. That's you poisoning the well.
No, a blog post is not an argument.
This is not a blog. It's the U.S. Library of Medicine.
It is the Help Me Understand Genetics. It's literally just a news update. And it links to other studies which says, oh, read these studies if you want to know more. We read
and
the
it's from
studies.
the National Library of Medicine.
Yeah, that
and
is an appeal to authority fallacy because it is not a paper. It is not a study. It is not an experiment.
Kraut, this isn't
no methodology, no
You are using that so wrong, Kraut. You're using that so wrong. In fact, I'm surprised that you can be this stupid. I'm really surprised. Okay, first of all, that's not what an appeal to authority fallacy is. I'm not saying I am correct because this is the National Library of Medicine. You, however, are making an appeal to insult by calling it a blog post.
How is calling it a blog post an insult? There are some pretty good blog posts out there.
Okay, sure, fine. But again, you are dismissing it because it is a blog post. So not only are you poisoning the well, not only, by the way, are you using fallacies wrong.
No, I'm not dismissing it. I'm saying it's not a paper.
It links
papers.
It links
papers,
the
but
studies.
it's not a paper.
Sure, it's not the paper, but it links the fucking paper, Kraut.
Yeah, it links
And
the
the
studies.
claim
Therefore,
in
you should have linked me the studies in the first place and not this. And we read the studies. And we got
Oh my god, Kraut. Again, all you're doing at this point is poisoning the well.
I'm not poisoning the well.
Yes, you are! How can you not see how this is you being a disingenuous ass, Kraut? This is a page from a reputable source. It is linking the studies in the page. Now, the studies suggest what it says in the page to be true. And what this the page suggests is that these studies suggest that genetic factors, by the way, these studies suggest that genetic factors underlie about 50%. That's what this says.
And you have read these
links to the specific studies.
You have read these studies together with me, and what it shows is opinion survey. Who has been questioned? 71 experts.
No, that's
and what it shows is varying disagreement upon the factors.
That's not the study. That's a different study. Kraut. All right, I'm taking your ability to talk away. If you still, that's not the same study. That's the different study. And again, this is you poisoning the well, because that other study that I quoted you, I was just using it in order to use it as a tool to help guide the conversation, to help you understand what are the kinds of things that are being debated in the scientific community that could cause the differences between intelligence of the races. And that isn't even linked on this page of the
Suggest.
Are you poisoning the well some more?
I'm not poisoning the well. A suggestion
yes, that is.
Not evidence.
The evidence is 50%, Kraut. It suggests 50%. It doesn't say it suggests that it is. It says it suggests 50%.
It suggests
you are poisoning
50%,
the well. It
I'm
doesn't
not
suggest
poisoning
that
the
it
well.
is or...
It says
Yes, you are.
suggests.
So at that point, if it says that the evidence suggests, you must agree at the least that IQ is caused in some part by genetics.
When did I ever deny that?
I don't know, Kraut. You kept on poisoning the well by saying it suggests.
Yes, I kept saying it suggests, and what my conclusion out of that is, oh, nice. Now give me which genes it suggests.
Well, yeah, but Kraut, however, we can show with this evidence that IQ is influenced by genes. The current evidence suggests 50%. Now,
That's not evidence.
This
It's a
is
suggestion.
Suggestion isn't evidence. For fuck's sake, the evidence suggests. You fucking moron. These
The evidence for a
studies
suggestion.
suggest. These studies suggest. This is how stupid you are being. This is how disingenuous. This is how much of a disingenuous fucking asshole you're being. These studies suggest. It has the evidence referenced in this fucking sentence, but your mind is going blank with all the black dick in your head that you can't see that it is referencing the evidence that you can fucking scroll down and read. These studies suggest you are poisoning the well.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you fucking
They
are, Kraut.
suggest.
These studies, the evidence that we have presently suggests that genetic factors underline 50% of the differences in intelligence among individuals. Therefore, IQ is influenced by genetic factors.
Yes, but you draw
Now,
the further conclusion that it's
stop.
racial.
Now, let's go to the next point. There are only a certain amount of things that can influence the genetic differences, the IQ differences between the race. These are nutritional factors, educational factors, and genetic factors. We know that it is not socioeconomic factors. We know that it is not nutritional factors. We know that it is not educational factors.
How do we know?
Like I said, I explained to you in detail why it is not
Other
socioeconomic
sociological
factors.
studies suggest that the other sociological
Again,
studies suggest
this
other
is you
sociological
poisoning the well.
No, it is not. Sociology is not a science.
Oh, for fuck's sake, Kraut, you are poisoning the well.
No, I'm not. I'm just reiterating.
Yes, you're reiterating.
Suggestions.
You're reiterating. For fuck's sake.
Yeah, there's a standard for proof for a reason. Let's continue with this at a later point.
Your standard of proof is fucking stupid. All you have done at this point, and here's how fucking stupid it is, okay? I'm going to go through with you all of the things that we are easily agreeing on, the differences between the races that are genetic and racial, okay? There are different medical differences between the race. Sickle cell anemia as one of the highest ones. There's also fucking fibromyalgia and the other difference. There are certain genetic diseases that target Jews independently, and we are perfectly fine with admitting, yes, those are racial. Medical differences. There's also physical differences on aesthetics. Your skin color is genetic. We don't have the knockout studies for fucking skin color. Neither do we have the knockout studies for the different bone density, or the muscle density, or the different sizes and dicks and height. And yet we are perfectly willing to admit that these are racial. You know why? Do you know why? Do you know fucking why? Because we have eliminated all of the other probabilities.
And you know how?
How?
Through molecular genetic analysis.
No, we have fucking not. We have not done a knockout study on nigger dick size.
We have done a knockout study.
No, we have fucking... Okay, for sickle cell.
How is
have we done it for height?
So your argument is dick size is genetic now.
Have we done it for dyslexia? And yes, by the...
I'll have to look into dyslexia. It's a weird suggestion to bring up, but when it comes to sickle cell, we know this because of molecular genetic analysis. And it also is known in the scientific community as this massive exception, by the way. It is very rare for SNPs to have this kind of an impact.
For a single SNP, sure. However,
Yes.
there are a number of other things admitting are genetic. A number of medical
You just
issues.
cut out. Can you please repeat? You just cut
Yes,
out.
sir.
for some-
There are a number of different things that we are willing to easily admit are genetic. A number of things. Genetic and racial. Height, as an example.
Yes, because
Height
we
is
found the genes. And when it comes to height
No.
is tremendously influenced by environmental factors.
Of course it is. And IQ is this
which is what?
IQ is the same thing as height. By the way, IQ, the genetics which influences
No,
IQ.
there's a difference. There's a difference. I just made a mistake when I said height is influenced by social factors. What I wanted to say is height is influenced by nutritional factors.
Yes, and here's the thing:
Yeah.
we
And
have
IQ
evidence
is
to
influenced by
suggest.
social factors.
We have
and
evidence to
nutritional
exact.
factors.
There's no evidence that IQ is influenced by social factors.
Really?
Yeah, in fact, the evidence that we have suggests that IQ as a test is able to succinctly, suss out the social factors.
Let me look this up.
And again, I only know that from the bell curve.
Well, the bell curve so-and-so, but the thing that was used to show me that was... Okay.
I mean, nutritional factors, yes, but I mean, specifically, you can't... yes, technically, you could educate someone to how... The way that they perform IQ tests, they can, differentiate that. They can update the IQ test. So I'm not saying that it can be influenced.
Can you give me 5 minutes? I have to read through a DM list.
Sure.
I didn't find this specific example. Fuck. What was it again? Okay, wait. Drillaster, you're in the chat. You can hear me. Send me a DM. The example of the 19th century child of a noble family taken away due to scandal and locked up in a cellar without any kind of social interaction for the first 12 years of his life. I forgot the name of that incident, and
yeah, I know what you're talking about. I mean, first of all, that's an extreme situation.
It's not just an extreme situation. It conclusively proves that social factors are very significant in influencing your intelligence. Not just your intelligence, but the basics of your.
Well, there's also the Minnesota prove. So what happened there is that they were, different racial children. There was white, biracial, and black, and they were adopted into different socioeconomic statuses. And what it showed is that.
And here's the thing: I have to admit something before we continue about this. The example I given is not conclusive and is not enough.
Sure, but
because it doesn't follow the scientific standard of a controlled environment.
Here's the thing, Kraut. By your standard, we aren't able to prove anything. In fact, somebody else could come along and be just a little more autistic than you and say, well, what about we don't know what's happening on the atomic level. We don't know what's happening on the subatomic level.
No, because
where are the radio waves? Where are this and that?
The atomic level is not required.
Why? Why not?
Because it's a different field. Like if you take, for example, a protein analysis. It's a different field. When you take a protein analysis, you don't... Well, the physics are involved within biology. There's, for example, chemistry especially is involved, where you show the chemical reaction. Actually, yeah, that's a good example to give with protein analysis. Protein analysis, in essence, is showing and calculating the different chemical reactions that happen.
But the thing is, Kraut, ultimately, the only thing you're able to get if you do the gene knockout therapy is correlation. Correlation doesn't equate to causation.
No, it's not correlation.
Yes, it is correlation. That's all you do. Oh, observable evidence is only correlation, Kraut.
In a controlled... No, in a controlled...
Ultimately, all we ever have is correlation. Ultimately,
You have
all
two
science
groups.
ever has is correlation, Kraut.
And observation, and repeatability,
Exactly.
and
And
falsifiability.
and
do you
Kraut,
not
if-
understand what a controlled environment is?
Yes, but here's the thing, Kraut. Again, your entire argument is just poisoning the well. And this is why. All you are doing is manufacturing a specific set of situations which would have someone would have to jump over in order to prove this to you. And I do understand that. However, what you aren't seeing is there are a number of other situations where truth and scientific knowledge can be deduced in the same way. You are just sticking your dick up your ass and not allowing people to express these other methodologies. And the thing is, we can use these methodologies to give the same kind of correlational evidence that you would be able to get with a correlational evidence with a gene knockout therapy.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can.
Because you make conclusions that are biological.
Listen.
there's a standard
These are
that
truth.
applies.
I never said that there are specific genes. I never said I know the specific.
Doesn't rely on
Excuse me.
correlation.
Kraut. Yes, it does. Ultimately, okay. What is a gene knockout? What is a knockout gene test?
Okay.
What do you do?
knockout
Is you,
gene.
Uh-huh.
Did you want me to describe it? Or
Sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I think you should. Sorry for interrupting you. Go ahead.
All right. So, I mean, what I know about it, from what you've expressed to me as well, is they take mice, or I mean, usually lab rats. They're the ones that do this. They knock out the gene, and then they see what happens. Essentially. Now, of course, they have the placebo group, the group that they don't, where they do a similar test with them, but they have them as the control group. However, and then they see the behavioral correlations that they can deduce from the knockout gene.
Not just behavioral. At the end, they usually gas the mice, and then they dissect them and look for the differences, where they suspected the differences to be. They often do it with fruit flies, and then what comes next is protein analysis, where you look what protein the gene encodes for, and you look where the protein encodes, because there are genes that, for example, encode for proteins that are...
So ultimately, all you're doing is measuring the function of the gene in a controlled. Ultimately, all you're doing is measuring the correlational factors and the differences of that one gene. So correlation is accurate just so long as it's in the controlled environment with that one gene. Is that true to say, Kraut?
What you're forgetting in this entire matter is that it is a controlled environment.
Yes, but controlled environments
Like,
aren't
for your correlations to apply.
Sorry, that was me.
Should we stop?
No, keep going. That was something that dropped. Keep going.
Okay.
The
Controlled
thing is
environments.
that, okay, Kraut, if you have a large enough sample size, okay, you can draw conclusions without necessarily a controlled environment.
That's a misconception. It's not about sample size. In social studies, sample size, the bigger the sample size, the better. Okay? In biology, it's irrelevant. Because you have a controlled environment. You breed two different groups, most commonly...
Yeah, but listen, Kraut, I'm not talking about biology. If you have a large enough sample size, if you are able to accurately suss out the other variable by either disproving them with individual studies and tests...
You cut out again.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay. If you have a large enough sample size, if you are able to suss out the individual third variables which may cause it, by process of deduction, you can draw scientific conclusions. And that's a big if. Now here's the proposition I have for you, Kraut. We have successfully deduced all other probabilities. Now at this point, Kraut, it is up to you to provide...
No, we haven't.
Okay, and name one.
Nutrition, social interaction.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
In the bell curve, covering social studies exclusively about the United States.
Sure, that's true. I mean, it is the United States.
It's shifting the burden of proof.
No, Kraut. Kraut.
I think it's important that I visualize what a controlled environment is. It means you breed two groups without any other influences. Any, whatsoever. You control what influences these breeding groups.
Yes, however, Kraut, like I said, you can deduce these other variables. You can deduct them with individual tests.
No, you can't, because
Yes,
how
you
does a
can.
No. When you observe a group of people and the behaviors,
It's a basic
tests,
hypothesis,
etc.,
Kraut.
what does that tell you about their genes? What does that tell you about what proteins those genes encode for? It doesn't tell you any such thing.
Yeah, what does it tell you about the about those proteins at the subatomic level? What does it tell you about the Big Bang?
That
See,
is
listen,
a
Kraut,
completely
you
different
can't.
standard of
There's a
proof.
thing called predictive validity, Kraut. This is the basis
Predictive
upon.
validity
This
is useless in biology. It's not about predictions, it's about falsifiability.
predictive validity. If something is predictive, false. Anyway, so the thing
you
is that
cut
if
out
you,
again. Sorry, you cut out again. Could you repeat?
if something does have predictive validity, it would necessarily be falsifiable. Anyway, glossing over that,
What?
if something has predictive validity, it would necessarily be falsifiable.
No. That's not what falsifiability means.
Kraut, if something has predictive validity, it would
The
also have
the reason why
falsifiability.
falsifiability is the standard by which we go in natural sciences. It's very simple.
for
Everyone
fuck's
can
sake.
repeat the experiment. Everyone
Yes,
can
but
come
if
to conclusions.
Kraut, if something has predictive validity, if you can use some test to predict something in the future, then you would
but it's
necessarily.
not. Yeah, but that's the thing. You are not applying the standard of biology to your social studies. You're applying a completely different standard. You're applying the standard of interpretation, a positivistic approach, which is not the approach within the scientific field. You are saying that your predictive potential of social studies, that you might be able to predict certain social trends, somehow is the same as the.
I mean, this is really psychological studies. I mean, it isn't really social studies. Just to correct you on that.
Yeah.
So
Psychology
this is
also not really biology. It's not even medicine.
sure, and it. I mean, okay, fuck off. But I mean, it isn't biology.
Can I give you
However,
an example?
no, because here's the thing, Kraut. You can use other fields of study to draw suggestions and implications for other fields of study. So you can make suggestions. Now, sure, it doesn't prove it biologically, but it does prove it psychologically. There is evidence for it. And the point of this, Kraut, is this, okay? We have enough evidence at this point to suggest that a racial component is involved at some level that influences the IQ differences between the races. We don't know how much.
Good.
Don't know. We don't know how much. That's true. We don't necessarily know which particular genes are doing it. That's true. However, there is
Exactly.
some racial
You just admitted you have no
However,
biological proof.
Kraut, we have enough evidence to suggest that it is true. And we have removed every other possible option. It is at this point in the conversation, it is up to you, the people who deny that race has any influence or an influence, to prove that there is another option which completely explains it, or that has not been disproven. That is the point we are in this scientific debate. Yes, we have not proven it biologically, but there is enough proof to suggest it is true, and we have deduced all of the other possible options. Race is
Suggest
the
is
only thing we have left, Kraut. It's the
No, it is
only
not.
thing we have left.
No, it
Name
is not.
one.
Environment, nutrition. I listed them before.
And I'm going to go through with each one of those. Nutrition, not true. The socioeconomic differences between whites and blacks in the United States are not that large. That does not explain it. Let's go sociological, not true. You have adoption studies which prove that even given sociological similarities, blacks of different socioeconomic groups have lower IQs and standards than their white counterparts. Let's go, I don't fucking know, let's go, okay, how about this? This is a really great one for you, Kraut. Self-esteem. Black people have higher self-esteem than white people, even though they have lower IQs. We have deduced all of them. Every single fucking one of them. Race is the only thing we have left. It is up to you at this point to prove that there is any other possible option. Is there one out there?
I love that you gave this example. I'm going to read pick up the chapter from the book by Robert Plomin and read to you exactly what it says about the study's inheritability of self-esteem. Because it just underlines completely what I said. Without the molecular analysis, you do not have proof.
Kraut, stop. Listen, you're going to misinterpret what I said again. Now, what I said was not that self-esteem is heritable. Okay? What I said is there is a hypothesis out there that your self-esteem can cause differences in IQ. Now, my point was to say that that is not true in this case, because black people often they will report higher on their belief of how they did on any test, particularly the IQ test. So their IQ, their self-esteem is higher than the white counterparts, even though their IQ is lower. Therefore, self-esteem does not cause these IQ differences. That's what I'm saying. We have run hypotheses. We have tested them. We know that these other variables do not cause the IQ differences. Race is the only thing we have left.
Yes, by a sociological standard, but not...
Sure, fine. You have to admit, by a sociological standard, at this point in the debate, race is the best option we have. Absolutely, we don't have 100% evidence, but I'm going to tell you, Kraut, there really isn't 100% evidence for anything. Even with the gene knockout therapies, there could be other factors. Maybe this gene has a replicant gene. Maybe there's 2 or 3 different genes that do the same thing, so knocking out one wouldn't be able to give you the answer. We don't know anything for 100%.
So you're telling me, you're telling me we can't have 100% proof for anything, therefore IQ is racial.
What I'm saying is we can't have 100%. What I'm saying, again, Kraut, before you misinterpret me again, there is not 100% proof anything. Because, I mean, ultimately, there are layers upon layers of causality with the entire universe. We cannot know the entire causal level for everything.
Providing 100% proof. It's
Here's
about
the thing.
providing
We have provided more proof.
No, you have not. You've provided social studies.
We have provided This is more proof, Kraut. This is the best proof that we have. Okay?
No, it is not. You could literally do the molecular genetic analysis and come back.
Yes, we could. Now, here's the thing, Kraut. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. Okay? In fact, I think we should, because that would essentially prove everything in a definitional way. What I'm saying for you, Kraut, is this: at this point in the scientific debate, nothing is proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. The preponderance of the evidence is on the side of the race realistic question, and we have removed all other possibilities.
No, there is no evidence. Therefore, there is no. Therefore, it is not on the side of the race realist position.
See, here's the thing.
All they have is social science.
We also have gene. We also have GWAS, genome-wide association studies, right?
Yes, I told you before that.
And there are other studies, okay? So there are other studies which correlate. Now, this isn't absolute proof to your level, so I'm going to admit that. However, these studies correlate certain genes with intelligence. And then after that, what it does is it proves that these particular genes, okay, correlate between races differently. Now, this is not definitive. However, it does suggest that these particular genes, which correlate with intelligence and differentiate IQ between races, are the causal factor. Now, the thing is, that's why I'm saying there is evidence to suggest that race realism is true. Now, it is up to you to do one of two things. Provide, you can't just say, we have no evidence, because we do have evidence. What is up to you?
I'm going to give you, I just want to give you a very simple example. It's the same example that I was given by a synthetic dissident when he explained to me why genome-wide association studies are not conclusive enough to provide evidence.
Listen, I know they aren't conclusive, Kraut, but here's the thing.
No, let me finish this, because it's important to point out. Genome-wide association studies provide candidate genes for further analysis. Here, I forgot which name it is, but I can ring up synthetic dissident later and ask him which one it was, which was people were convinced due to these kind of studies that it was related to heart diseases. Were convinced because the same genome-wide association, the same kind of studies, which you're quoting, not genome-wide association, but similar studies, suggested that these genes were in some way related to heart disease. And then later on in the 90s, in the late 90s, some molecular biologists actually did the research into that gene, did the molecular genetic analysis, and found absolutely not. This gene is in no fucking way related to heart disease. And that is the reason why genome-wide association studies do not provide sufficient evidence. Actually, they do not provide any evidence whatsoever.
I mean, okay,
they provide suggestions for genes for further analysis.
Now, here's the thing, Kraut. Now, I'm looking at two different options, okay? Now, the first one is the race realism question. We have evidence that suggests that it is true. It is from multiple different fields of study, both psychological, both sociological, and genetic. Even though the genome-wide association studies are not conclusive, that is evidence that suggests that it is true. On the other hand, we have removed every other possibility. At this point in the conversation, Kraut, you cannot simply point at our evidence and say it is not enough. It's like a pie chart, okay? There's 100% causality, and we know that it has to be these 5 things. If it is not racial or less racial, it has to be more something else. It is up to you at this point to provide evidence that there are other factors which can completely explain it. It is up to you.
Not. It is not. It is literally not.
Because if this cannot be explained...
If you claim it is racial, you have to find the genes that are more common.
No, I do not, Kraut. Listen.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. No, I don't. This is why. And I'm not saying that it is biological. I'm not saying with 100% conclusivity. What I'm saying is we can draw reasonable conclusions with this evidence. Now, these are reasonable conclusions. I'm not saying it as an absolute way. They aren't, it isn't 100% conclusive. However, the conclusions we can draw is that the evidence we have shows that race realism is probably true. And we have eliminated all other possibilities.
I don't want to repeat myself. Can we just end this here and come back to it later?
We can, but I mean,
literally just say the same thing, that it is not the standard of evidence that.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Kraut. Listen.
You're making a biological claim.
No, I'm not. You're again, Kraut.
Yeah, it is
a
fundamentally biological.
You are poisoning the well. Again. Nowhere did I say biological. Okay.
No,
I did say
you're
it was
not
racial.
saying biological.
And I didn't. And I also didn't say.
Heritability is fundamentally biological.
I also did not say concludes. I said suggested. I said a reasonable conclusion. No, I did not.
Yeah,
I said it is a reasonable.
Based on evidence. And when you make conclusions in biology, you need the biological evidence.
There is evidence, and I'm not saying it does 100%. It is a reasonable conclusion that we can draw from the evidence, considering 2 separate factors. There is evidence to suggest that the racial factor is true, and all other variables, all other possible causal variables have been removed. Therefore, the only one we have left is the racial variable. That's the only one left. Not only is racial...
No, it's not, because you haven't removed all other factors conclusively.
Yes, we have. Kraut, we have. Every single one. I'm telling you this. And I can go through it. Like I said, nutritional values, socioeconomic values, all of these ones, they have been removed.
Yes, give me the papers. Give me the papers that remove them. Give me the papers.
I can do that, or you could just read the bell curve. And here's the thing, Kraut. And I'll go ahead and do that if you like to.
Read the bell curve. I would like to have the specific site, the specific chapter, or the paper, because even the bell curve is based on papers.
Sure, and the thing is, Rod, I don't have that thing in front of. I don't have that in front of me right now. However, I would like to you, Kraut, to just for a moment take this on face value. You can prove or disprove this. You can prove for the purpose of argumentation.
Just take it at face value. No.
Kraut, for fuck's sake, stop poisoning the well. No. You are literally Jewishly poisoning the well. If this is true...
I'm not going to take it on face value. That's a pretty absurd proposition.
Kraut,
take it at face value.
this is, for fuck's sake, this is a common thing that people do. Your average unautistic moron does this. Take this on face value that this is true. Now, I want to ask you, if this is true, let's assume that it is for the purpose of argumentation. If this is true, all of the other possibilities have been removed. Okay? If that is true, and the current amount of sociological evidence is the only evidence we have for where these differences in IQs could come from, what is the reasonable conclusion that you would draw? If that was the case, what conclusion would you draw?
I wouldn't draw a conclusion because I would require the further biological evidence because, as I said, it is a biological claim.
Kraut.
That's the
there
thing.
There are no other biological possibilities left.
Social studies do not provide evidence for biology. And I have to keep repeating this over and over again. Did you really need to talk to a biologist about that?
Listen, I mean, I've seen the fucking studies, and 90% of them agree with.
You've seen the biology studies?
No, I've seen the studies about opinions of biologists, and that I have seen agree with me.
The opinion by biologists. Okay, first off, it says experts. It does not say biologists.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
71.
Oh,
and
it's
all
only
it says
71.
is no, and all it says that 90% of them agree that genes play an influence.
Exactly.
That's it.
And that's all that I'm trying to say. Genes, particularly genes that are probably aligned with race, that we do see that these genes do are aligned with race, are influential. That's it.
Yeah,
At
nobody's
this point,
denying that, but you are also adding
okay, Kraut, stop. Okay, our genes are racial. We know that genes differ between the races. We know that specific genes which correlate with intelligence differ between the races.
I can draw up different SMPs between people of northern Poland and southern Poland. Does that mean that they're different races?
No,
People
but it
with
does mean that they're
Down
different ethnicities. And Down syndrome people
vary genetically more than with any other group of human beings.
And you know what? They're fucking retarded, like you.
Yes, no. You are setting a standard of genetics according to which people with Down syndromes are a different race.
No, I am not. I never said that.
You're making the standard by what is a race genetic.
Poisoning the well. You are taking this out of context, applying your own specific definitions, and arguing against a straw man. I never said that people with Down syndrome are different races. Although I will tell you that different people with Down syndrome. No, it's the implication. I will tell you. No, I am not. I'm also not saying, by the way, there are particular explicit genes which would make one person one race or another. I know that race is a largely sociological term. I know that it isn't a term that is specifically biological. I know that it is fuzzy. However, first of all, there are a number of haplogroups which we can use to track somebody's racial group alignment with. There are a number of different features which are used to differentiate people of different races. Also, the Northern Polish and the Southern Polish are different ethnicities. The Welsh and the Scottish and the Irish and the fucking British, from Brittany in France, right? The peninsula. They have different genes. They have different they vary genetically between one another to a level that you can measure it. If your argument is so fucking pathetic that I would have to, by this argument, use make Down syndrome people another race, then fine. Down syndrome people are another fucking race. Whatever. Poison the well with that as much as you fucking want. But the point is, races do differ genetically. We know that IQ is influenced by race. All of the other possibilities have been removed. The racial genetic difference is the only difference we have left.
Are you done?
Sure. What do you have to say? Same thing? It's not biological, even though we have all of this evidence? That's not enough for you? Same thing you're going to say? Because, I mean, at this point, it is not only is it the variable that we have the most evidence for, all of the other variables have been disproven. Race, at some level, influences the difference of intelligence between racial groups. That's what we know at this point. We don't know by how much. We don't know by what measure. We don't know what specific genes. But there is enough evidence to show that
you
at
don't know
some...
this, you don't know that.
There is enough evidence to show... And I'm being more scientific than you.
No, you're not, because
Yes,
you
I
are
am.
applying a social sciences standard within biology.
No, I'm not.
Social science has nothing to do in biology.
Kraut, fuck off. I am not making a biological claim because I am not saying that I know which gene this is. What I am saying...
Yes, you are, because you are saying that you know that it is racial.
I'm not saying I know what specific genes this is. However, I know that all other options have been removed. So the best place for us to look for the specific answer is in these racial genes.
You don't know that all options have been removed.
I have seen the studies.
Yes, I've DM'd you 2 studies. I've DM'd you I actually have to build these into a future video. The hypovitamosis D prevalence and determinants among African American and white women of reproductive age, further national health and nutrition examination. And the, which one was this? Influence of malnutrition on intellectual development. This, by the way, the influence of malnutrition upon intellectual development is the same kind of shit that your people keep pushing, which is correlations without further molecular genetic evidence.
For fuck's sake, Kraut. Fuck off with that. I mean, first of all, how are you going to genetically that eating different foods? You can't do a gene knockout therapy for nutrition because nutrition isn't a gene. It's a nutritional thing.
Yes, oh my God. I'm not saying that nutrition is genetic. I'm saying
do we have to use
impacts intelligence.
Do you have the gene knockout thing? Nutrition? That's how fucking autistic you're being.
You are completely misinterpreting what I said. I said.
Oh, am I arguing in bad faith now?
No,
am I arguing in bad faith?
No, we can.
That's not a biological. That's not biological.
We can do a study where.
No, that's not a biological study. That's not biological.
Nutrition.
I don't. Where's your gene knockout therapy? Where's the gene for nutrition?
It's not a genetic argument, dude.
Oh, is it not a genetic argument? Then that's not a true argument. It does influence this. I'm not going to accept it.
You just claimed that nutrition is genetic. What the hell are you talking about? I'm saying no. The argument is nutrition.
Oh, so you're not. Well, you know what? If you don't have the gene knockout therapy, go get the gene. Go find the gene.
We can do a knockout study on nutrition. What you do is you take a test group in a controlled environment, you feed the other one normally, and you let the other one starve whilst doing tests for what you're trying to prove.
Oh, so So what you're saying is that gene knockout therapy is the only form of evidence that you can use.
It's not a gene knockout. It's a knockout.
Isn't that just called a double-blind study, Kraut? Can't you also do that with a number of variables about whether or not, like as an example, twin studies that are done correctly, where you control for all external variables?
No, because twin studies are not a controlled environment. I mean,
but
literally
Kraut, you can actually go ahead and go through, and you can control all of the fucking variables. Kraut.
No, you can't.
Yes, you
one of the
can.
examples given that I came across is a twin study in which the 2 twins literally lived next to each other.
So?
How is that separated? How is that controlled? You can't have a controlled environment for twin studies.
First of all,
therefore,
yes,
it is not conclusive. It does not apply for the standards that you have in biology.
First of all, yes, you can. Secondly, there are twin studies that have selected. Okay? So all you have to do is you have to go into your data and remove the twins that don't have the variable. See, the thing is, Kraut, that's all your argument is. You are making an argument from incredulity. I gotta say, that is, by the way, that's another fallacy. Argument from incredulity. All you're saying is that, well, it's not this specific type of evidence. We have evidence that does suggest that it's true. That's it.
Let me just explain to you what a controlled environment twin study would have to look like. It would have to be same diet, same schooling, same parents, same siblings, same food, separated. That's what the standard would be in order to draw a biological conclusion. You don't have that.
You know what we could do though, Kraut? Here's a funny fucking notion, okay? What you could do is you could see whether or not the differences that you find between the twin studies and the regular people are over the standard random deviation, okay? So what you do is a simple fucking notion, Kraut. By the way, I'm surprised I have to explain this to you. This is, I mean, for someone who touts the scientific method, this is simple, okay? So there is an amount of variation between individuals for those different points, for nutrition, et cetera, et cetera. What you do is you see, is there a significant enough change when we remove this one variable that it is noticeable? Excuse me.
Okay, so since
that
when
it
is
is
this
noticeable, that it is noticeable above and beyond the general background radiation of random chance. Okay, and all these other variables. And if it is a significant change, you can draw a conclusion that there is a causal factor in play.
The standard deviation of social factors is not conclusive for biological evidence because it's literally social. It's social.
You can't
it's
have
statistics-based.
Kraut, for fuck's sake, you can't do biological evidence for social factors anyway.
Exactly. Thank you for finally.
But here's the thing, Kraut. We can still draw truth conclusions from these things. You can still draw conclusions from them.
Truth conclusion.
It is a general conclusion about what you can reasonably decide what is true or false. For fuck's sake, it is evidence. It is not absolutely conclusive to 100%, but then again, nothing is absolutely conclusive. It is more evidence than you have.
No, it is not evidence because it... I don't know how often I have to repeat this.
Bro, because you're
Biology
wrong. Because you're wrong.
I'm not.
You're wrong.
I am not wrong.
You're wrong. You are applying the biological standard of evidence to conclusions that are not necessarily biological. These are conclusions.
No. Your conclusion is biology.
No, it's not.
It is IQ is heritable, and heritability is biological. Are you saying heritability is not biological?
Heritability is biological. However, you don't necessarily need the biology to prove something is heritable.
No, that's not true.
It is true.
On the same basis,
like I said, what you can do is you can do deductive logic and deduce all other options. That's what we've done. If heritability
that's literally saying we don't need evidence.
No, it isn't, Kraut. It's saying you, like I said at the outset, are autistically saying that inductive logic is the only reasoning that we can use. It's the only kind of logic that we can use to draw conclusions. That's not true. It is true in biology. It is not. It's not true in any science. It's not true at all.
Well, it's not true in sociology.
It's not true in biology either. You can use deductive reasoning to make truth conclusions from evidence. If, as an example, in biology, if you do a knockout study and prove that something is not a particular gene, you know that it is not that particular gene, and you can conclude that it is not genetic. If there are no other genes that could be causal. You can use deductive reasoning as well in every scientific field, Kraut.
Okay.
In every single one.
If you send up a hypothesis like this in biology, you are then required to prove it through the experimentation. You can't just simply say, oh, this is genetic, but I don't need to know what the genes are.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying we don't need to know the genes in order to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt. What I'm saying, Kraut, is that at this point in the scientific debate, there is more evidence for it than there is against it.
And I'm saying no, there's not.
Well, where's your evidence against it? Prove it.
My evidence against this are literally the studies that the people who are making this claim are providing.
Like what?
Like the suggestions and the genome-wide association.
Oh, you mean the one
studies,
from the? You mean the blog post from the National?
Any conclusions?
Yes. You mean the one from the National Library of
biological claims, you need biological evidence.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Because, like I said, there are some studies which are reasonably well structured enough, which can lead you to the conclusion genetics is in play. As an example are the studies that prove that the differences in IQ within families and between individuals is genetic. You can
You just said
make
we
those
don't
conclusions.
need biological evidence for biology.
No, I did not fucking say that, Kraut.
Yeah, you
But
literally did. You said we don't need. Oh my god.
Kraut.
This is. Oh.
Kraut, you're a fucking moron. Listen this. You have admitted before in this fucking conversation, the evidence shows that genetic factors underlie are influential in IQ, in intelligence. The specific studies suggest that it's around 50%. They did not use a gene knockout therapy a study to come to that conclusion. They used
It's not a
other
conclusion,
methods.
it's a suggestion.
It is a conclusion, you jackass.
It is a suggestion.
It is a conclusion, okay?
No, it literally says suggestion. It suggests.
For fuck's sake, Kraut. The suggestion is about 50%. You are autistically and retardedly.
Certainty.
There is a certainty that it does influence it. The certainty is we know it is genetic. That's where it is certain.
Is that
the certainty is that it is genetic. The suggestion is 50%.
That suggestions are there, and for further evidence, we need to prove it through biological methods.
Kraut. The suggestion is that it's 50%. The evidence shows that it is genetic. It is genetic. The suggestion is 50%.
Ape, we should stop this because we're literally just repeating ourselves.
I know we are. It's because you're fucking stupid, man. You're a fucking moron. How can you make this fucking argument? You have admitted in this IQ. How do you make that conclusion? Kraut, you don't have this particular genes. How can you make the conclusion that genes influence intelligence? You haven't done the fucking knockout study. We know that genes influence intelligence because there are other studies and other standards of evidence that we have used to come to that conclusion. This isn't a fucking blog post. This is from the National Library of Medicine. This is conclusive. The only thing we don't know at this point is how much. That's where we're quibbling over fucking percentage points. That's how pathetic your fucking argument is.
No, we're not quibbling over
50%.
percentage points. We are quibbling over evidence.
Rywan,
that's it.
Oh,
and I don't see any social study as any kind of evidence for anything in biology. It's as simple as that.
Kraut, you're fucking wrong. Nobody in the field of nobody in any field would say that. That's fucking retarded. Again, this is not some blog post from an individual person. This is from the National Library of Medicine. It is a standard news update. And it says that the studies suggest that genetic factors underlie 50%. And you are like a fucking retarded, well-poisoning kike madman focusing only on the phrase suggest. When I'm focusing on about 50%, 50%. It suggests 50%, Kraut.
Yes, and in order to prove that it is 50%, what do? You
would have to do the gene knockout therapy. However, we know that it is genetic and the least. That's what we know, you fucking retard.
We don't.
Yes, we do. We know it's genetic. We don't know how much. Because, listen, here's the thing, Kraut. 50%, a 50% correlation between these factors is more than enough to prove that it is genetic. We don't know by how much. We don't know by what measure. We know that it is genetic.
Sorry, I'm just quickly looking something up. And it might be a perfect thing to end up this. Because someone pointed out to me that the chat is focused on MCPH1 regarding intelligence and supposed divergent evolution. So here is the study that did the knockout and gene analysis and disproved that. Here you go. And I think we should end this, Ape. Because you're just repeating yourself. I'm just repeating myself.
Yeah, we are. I mean, I honestly don't know how I can't get this through to you, Kraut. Your argument is fucking stupid. It's a stupid argument. It's below well poisoning. It's below diction. It's below reading from the dictionary. You're basically a dictionary feminist reading the definition of feminism. The definition of
what I suggest we do is we get a neutral moderator for the next time. I would suggest layman, and you bring on someone to support your hypothesis, and I bring someone on.
No, we're not going to do that. If we do that, we'll do it into person per person.
Good. Okay. That's fine by me.
Anyway, what's the thing you want to bring up? You want
to? I know. Just, I think it was Sandra who pointed out to me that the chat was banging on about MCPH1, the function of MCPH1. That's a gene that encodes for proteins in the brain. And the claim was 10, 20 years ago that this proves divergent human evolution. However, we know conclusively from knockout studies and protein analysis that it does not.
Okay, sure, for that one gene. However, in order to prove that it isn't genetic. So I mean, here's the thing. There are only about 5 different possible causes for the difference between the of IQs between the. Okay, now you can disprove these individual causes. You could easily disprove them. You can't, and a number of these have been disproven. The one that has not been disproven at this point is the racial hypothesis.
I am not going to comment on that further. I think we should set it up for the future, moderated point by point, where we move on point by point on all of this.
Are you going to admit at the very least that IQ is genetic? Are you going to admit that?
No. I'm going to admit the following. Genes can influence intelligence and cognitive ability. That's what I'm going to admit.
Now, how do you know that, Kraut? Yes, for this entire fucking thing.
How I know that is because there have been studies that concluded that, because we know genes.
Like what? Like which one?
Let me look up the gene again. If you really want to know it, just give me 5 minutes.
So there's a specific gene that did that?
Yeah, there's specific genes.
Was it a knockout gene that did this? Is that the study that you used?
Yeah, knockout study. Exactly. Here we go. Fuck, I should have listed it. Okay, wait. Let me just type it into my browser and it might turn up. KCC2. KCC2 is an example. I can link you the study that conclusively proved that. Do you know what dendritic spines are?
No, I can't tell you that. What I can do is I can bring up a number of S&P correlation studies. I mean, this one, I don't know if the specific phrase you KCC2 is going to apply to it, but this one shows there are a number of different a number of different genes which correlate with intelligence that are believed to cause intelligence that do correlate differently among different peoples internationally and racially. So that's what I have, and if you can find that particular gene in there, then that would just end the argument.
Yeah. Can you give me that study? That would be interesting.
Sure, here you go. This is going to be from Piffer. What, is this not true?
Piff is a lolcow. Piff is a fucking lolcow. He literally wrote a blog post complaining that biologists don't accept his sociology papers as biology, and that the process of peer review should be replaced with a popular vote. That's fucking ridiculous. Yeah, the guy's a lolcow. Anyway, where are the genes listed in it? Okay, RS9320931 13. Okay, we can go to fucking hell. Jajon isn't online. He has access to a national data bank, which is perfect for this. Okay, let's take a look at the first one, RS9320913. Sequence variation RS932093. What is it? It is the submission SS123 members. Geez. Wait, I'm going to send you the link as well, okay?
Sure.
Here, you type in snips here, and it will... Wait, there's actually a better database. Let me get that one up. There's a different database where you type in the SNP or the gene that you have, and it automatically links you to all studies done with that gene. Every single knockout study, every single protein analysis, and you can then conclusively say what it is. But I have to find that one again. I think it is Genome NCBI. No. No. Genome database. Okay. It's probably better, isn't it, if we know which studies have been done on that SNP, correct?
Sure, yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, let's do that. What was the name of it again? RS9320931. Okay. And here we go. Okay, here we got the first one. Let me link it to you, okay? So the first one, migrant, is lineage. Stormy, Amelia Aratha. Current. Okay. I think we can cut that out of the podcast. I think we should record an ending. Or do we leave it at the ending of...
We should. We should have a recording and ending. I gotta say, good crowd. I mean...
Here we go. Associations of AKAP6 and MIR2113 with cognitive performance in a populace-based sample of adults. Genetic contributions to variation in general cognitive function. Meta-analysis. Genome-wide association. That's genome-wide association. That's not interesting. Here we have expression patterns and functions in endomal differentiation of human embryonic stem cells. That's brilliant. I think that's exactly what we were looking for. That's a study that applies here. So let's take a look at this. The author, Turgi and Levy A, Mary A, background aims, expressions of free novel miRNAs in undifferentiated and differentiated HEC upon encodes for fat cells.
Okay.
Yeah, encodes for fat cells.
All right.
So if anyway, it encodes for fat cells, what's the fucking point of it? There's
I don't fucking know, man.
If it encodes for fat cells, there's no point to this.
I don't know. I have honestly no idea. There's a number of different genes that he's using in this SMP GWS.
Yeah. Well,
anyway, so here's the point, Kraut.
I need to point this out to you. It's just
honestly, I'm kind of sick of this. I'm ready to end. So here's the thing, Kraut. The sort of conclusion that I'm coming to is you've become very good at arguing these points. And honestly,
I haven't.
Yes, you have. And here's the reason, Kraut. You have quite literally divided up the portions of logic which a rational, reasonable person would be able to use, and the ones which suggest you are wrong, you are ignoring. You are ignoring entire fields of science, entire fields of logic, entire I mean, you're ignoring our ability to draw conclusions based on like-for-like items, okay? You're basically you're rewriting a great portion of causality in order to keep your particular belief true. Your particular position.
I'm not drawing any conclusions, but the thing.
Yes, you are. You're drawing a number of conclusions. First of all,
I'm not.
First of all, what you're saying is that you're saying only proof in the positive would be able to prove that something is true. Whereas I'm saying that deductive reasoning is also a legitimate form of science and a legitimate conclusions. You're ignoring that. Oh, by the way, the human brain is nearly 60% fat, so that particular gene, it may actually do something about it. But here's the thing.
Human
So
brain is 60% fat. Yeah.
so that
Human
gene that
brain-
which does
the
encoding, the gene that encodes fat, it could be influenced by IQ. Here's the point, though.
Then please, no. Please explain to me. Please show me the neurons made out of fat.
I don't know. Maybe
Really
those.
love to see neurons
Kraut,
made of
you're
fat.
being a fucking at this point, Kraut, you're being a fucking douchebag. Okay, that's the point. See, this is exactly the point. You are playing such a game of poisoning the well. I mean, this is an example. We find a specific gene, which you say only codes for fat. Well, you know, the brain is 60% fat. Well, find me the neuron. All you are doing
Neurons are do the work in the brain.
Oh, sure. And fat, the fat in your brain has nothing to do with.
Neurons are what transmit the signals in the brain.
And the fat in your brain has nothing to do with it?
Since when does fat transmit the signals in your brain? Since when is the
Kraut,
fat
you
of the
need
brain?
Kraut,
Jesus.
here's the thing, Kraut, I'm not a neuroscientist, so I'm not going to specifically comment on this. I'm just going to point out how condescending, how well poisoning, and how fucking retarded you're being at this point. So here's the point. You have no fucking idea what the role of fat is in the brain. Neither do I. You have no fucking clue. It is entirely plausible that fat in the brain could, different types of fat in the brain could increase or decrease your ability to process information. You don't know that. I don't know that. Your point is that you're simply making this condescending argument that is not scientific, that is not the positivist argument, selectively. So when it is beneficial to you, you need to have just the evidence from your specific field, which is biology. When it is not beneficial to you, fat neuroscience, where's the fucking fat neurons? You have no idea.
Since you said I don't have no idea. Do you know what the fat in the brain does?
I honestly don't know.
Myelin. Just Google myelin, will you? Myelin. And then you will know what the fat in the brain does.
Okay, sure.
But for now, I'm going to leave with one suggestion, which is I highly recommend you have a chat with my geneticist. I
mean, here's another study that from the specific study, we've learned in recent years that fatty acids are among the most crucial molecules that determine your brain's integrity and ability to perform. So, like I said, Kraut, you are an asshole. You are a fucking asshole, and you're wrong.
That study? I would love to see.
Here it is. It's a blog post. No, it's actually by PubMed.org. So let's go ahead and get that. Anyway, so like I said, you're a fucking asshole. You talk out of your ass. You are using two different standards of when it suits you. You are increasing the standard of evidence and then suddenly decreasing it whenever it fucking suits your goddamn ego in this argument. You become very good at arguing this position by simply increasing and decreasing the standard of evidence whenever it suits you. Whenever it's
Essential
fucking
fatty acids are required to maintain of optimal health, but they do not synthesize by the body and must be obtained from dietary sources.
Sure, but if there is a gene,
clinical observation studies has related imbalanced dietary intake of fatty acids to impaired brain performance.
Kraut, you're just reading the phone book at this point.
No,
you're just
I'm
reading the fucking
study
phone
you
book.
linked me, and it literally says.
Yeah, you're reading the fucking.
Nutrition is responsible.
Yes,
for
Kraut, you asshole. All right, here's how the conversation goes. Again, you disingenuous asshole. We've gone from there is a particular gene which encodes fat. Okay, well, fatty acids are very important and crucial molecules that determine your brain's integrity and ability to perform. And here you are acting like a disingenuous asshole reading the fucking phone book.
I'm reading the study you
You are being a disingenuous asshole. Find the particular quote. We've learned in recent years. First of all, it's just reading the phone book. And you've also skipped over this one. We've learned in recent years that fatty acids are among the most crucial molecules that determine your brain's integrity and ability to perform. So not only are you quote mining, not only are you reading the phone book, not only are you a disingenuous, well-poisoning asshole, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're fucking wrong, Kraut.
I'm going to render this and send it to you later today. It's the same email address as the past, correct?
Yeah. I mean, let's go through this, okay? You're asking us
No,
where
no,
is
no,
the
we're
gene?
not going
We
to
just
go
found the
for
gene. We just
Which
found
one?
the gene, Kraut.
The gene, really?
The gene. Well, we found
The
a
gene.
gene. We found a gene, okay? We found a gene which is correlated with intelligence and which differs among races, and both internationally. We found that it encodes fatty acids, and we found that that the human brain does need different types of fat in order to perform. That's more evidence that we've just found for my position of race realism.
And we found that we need nutrition to keep it working.
Oh my God, Kraut, are you saying that genetics?
We found the gene that differences on encoding of fat.
Oh my God, Kraut, you disingenuous asshole!
We found the gene that encodes for fat cells, which are called myelin, which are literally just the protective coating around the synapses.
So you mean
you should read the studies you sent.
Bro, you know you just basically destroyed your entire argument right there. So let's go, like, in the last 5 minutes, here's the two sides of the coin you've said. All right? You've been on the position, well, what does that specific gene do? Oh, it encodes fat? Fat in the brain. That's neurons. And now it encodes myelin? Well, that's just the protective fatty acids around the
I was literally
neurons.
just reading the study you sent me, as you should do too. You should read your own studies.
Yeah, Kraut, you are again poisoning the well. What this study suggests is that I'm right. Are you going to at least admit that? We have found one gene, which according to Piffer, has a different distribution between races, which seems to have and may have, there's studies which shows that the specific gene influences the fatty acids in the brain, which is also shown to cause or help or hinder, if it's not there, your brain's integrity. This is us finding a gene which influences intelligence, which
there's
has
no
a different
conclusions regarding intelligence. It's conclusions regarding brain health.
Integrity and ability to Don't you think a healthy brain would make you
ability to perform? Yes. What does that mean?
Oh my God, you disingenuous asshole!
This is not disingenuous.
What does ability to perform mean?
Reading the paper.
Are you fucking kidding? What does ability to perform mean when related to the brain? It means intelligence, you asshole!
Do you really think the entire brain is just built around intelligence?
I think that the G factor is heavily influenced by the health of your brain.
I need to add something else here on the end. Like the example of the dendritic spines, all the genes found connected to that process are in total 1,400, which work in a tightly packed concert to fulfill this function. So the reason why I sniggered when I said, oh, I found one gene, well, it's never one gene. You have to find the genes involved in this. Well, okay, if you find one gene, the positive outcome of that is that it allows you to go, it makes it easier if you can conclusively say that this is the impact to find the other genes with which it works in concert.
Find the gene. It's never one gene. It's never enough genes. Find two.
Find the gene is important.
Find the gene, but it's never one gene. How many genes be enough for you, Kraut? How many fucking genes do we need to find?
One gene is enough.
One gene is enough. We found one gene.
It does what you claim it does. But it doesn't do what you claim it does.
It doesn't do what we claim it does.
Fatty acid cells.
Fatty acids.
It's like
it's not the myelin sheath. It's not the fatty acids in the myelin sheath, like you just said, Kraut.
Read. Oh God, I'm gonna give you the Wikipedia article of myelin, so you.
I mean, essential fatty acids are required for health. There we go. So if this gene helps with the optimal health of the brain... Oh, but what does health of the brain mean?
Yes, exactly. What does health of the brain mean? Yeah, what does it mean? Does this mean intelligence? Does it?
Oh my god, you are such a disingenuous ass. You are such a disingenuous ass. Yes, you are. No, you lost. You lost. Does a healthy brain influence...
Oh, God.
You've lost, Kraut. Like, this is example. You aren't actually making an argument. All you are doing is increasingly and increasingly apply more standards of evidence that you would need.
I'm not. I'm literally continuously...
What does health of the brain mean? What does health of the brain?
You just sent me a paper.
What does health of the brain mean?
Fat cells that are protective coating around synapses. The thing that influences your cognitive ability are the synapses. The passing of information between the synapses. That is how your brain works. Synapses passing information.
Kraut.
So show me the study that influences synapses and their ability to perform. And you will have found something that influences the brain.
This is what I'm talking, Kraut. You have continuously raised the standard of evidence. That's all you're doing.
Well, there is a pretty high standard of evidence in biology.
Oh my god! A pretty high standard of evidence that keeps on changing? It's not just one gene, it's multiple genes. And you can't just have, what does the ability to perform mean? I don't know. Does a healthy brain
your
mean
argument
smart?
at the start literally was we don't need to find the gene.
No, that wasn't my argument.
And then you come forward and said, hey, we found a fat gene, and I explained to you the process by which genes influence physiology. And Jesus fucking Christ.
Kraut. I mean, really, the moment you said, what does a healthy brain influence, you've... Okay? That's you being a disingenuous asshole. Does a healthy brain...
That is me trying to get you to realize that does not necessarily have
Does a healthy brain intelligence? I don't know. I'm too skeptical to understand if a healthy brain influences. I'm too skeptical. I mean, can you not see how fucking dumb this argument is at this point?
I can see how fucking dumb this has become by now.
Yeah. This is specifically your argument has become the dumb part.
You should really have a chat with Jejone, that's it.
Sure, I can do that. I mean, or I can ask him if the ability to perform is the same as intelligence. If your brain's ability to perform is the same as intelligence. See, that's how autistic you are.
Yes,
the
because
ability to perform.
Call that cognitive ability.
Oh, cognitive ability? Oh man, I don't know if cognitive ability is the same as intelligence. I mean, I know that fatty acids are among the most crucial molecules that determine your brain's integrity and ability to perform, and that should be cognitive ability. But is that intelligence? I don't know. I'm too skeptical to draw that simple conclusion.
No, you're drawing this conclusion on your own behalf.
Oh, I can't believe I'm drawing the conclusion that cognitive thing.
You're breaking up again.
I can't believe that I'm drawing the conclusion that cognitive ability, intelligence, same fucking thing. I'm too skeptical to say that cognitive ability is the same thing as intelligence. You are quite literally the skeptic.
Perform could just as literally mean visual ability.
Oh.
It could just, like, one of the studies that was given to me by one of these race realists was concerning brain size. And the variation of brain size between northern longitudes and south. And the result of this is very simple. Yes, the visual cortex and eye sockets are bigger according to longitude.
I mean,
it's
the human
really
brain...
that simple.
Oh, it's that
Visual
simple?
importance,
Oh.
just basic motoric functions. Like you're limiting this to things which is just...
I mean, the human brain is nearly 60% fat, but I guess all that fat is fucking eyes. So there's no other area of the brain that could be influenced by this, and we can't draw conclusions about the brain's ability to perform. All that
fat is protective layer. All that fat is a protective layer around
That's
neurons.
all it is.
And neurons
it's just
are
protective...
responsible for cognitive ability, motoric ability, visual ability, all that stuff.
Kraut, you're fucking stupid. You've lost this argument at this point. At this point, you've raised the standard of evidence like 5 different fucking times.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
Like, you have raised the standard of evidence at this point. I mean, look at this. You're saying that the ability to perform and cognitive ability aren't intelligence. And this fat only protects the neurons. It isn't actually the neurons. Kraut. If these fatty acids are protecting their neurons, and if these are among the most crucial molecules that determine your brain's integrity and ability to perform, that means that it influences intelligence. Now, I'm done with you. I'm done with this fucking argument. Because you and the fucking skeptics do this. You don't have an actual argument. You're not arguing in good faith. You are constructing barriers for your own belief. It is an argument from your own incredulity. This isn't a legitimate argument from you. I've given you the particular arguments you could make. If you wanted to disprove that genes are influential, you have to prove that it is influenced entirely by something else. You can't do that. You can't disprove it. And we do have evidence which shows that race realism is true, but it's not enough. And it never will be enough for you because you don't want to believe it, and there will always be another gene. I think he quit at that point. I don't see him in the chat anymore.
Well, that was interesting.
Yeah, it was fun. How'd you like it?
I wanted to kill myself.
Yeah, me too. Hey, Finn, were you there the entire time? I fucking hope so. If he's not, then I'm gonna fucking kill him.
Can I stop recording now?
Yeah, you can stop. It's over now.
I am the king of autism.